Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Mike, the stats guy, talking about radians. I always enjoyed that little video clip. I think it's very clear and exactly what a radian is. Radians are used in higher level math, especially in calculus. So if you're planning on going into something that requires calculus or math, some kind of vocation, then that is going to be important to understand. All right, so radians is really just another way of measuring an angle, okay? And we saw from the video that if you have a half of a circle, oops, if you have a half of a circle, right, and you're looking at that radius, you're looking at how many radiuses make up that half circle. So we have 1, 2, 3, and a little bit, which is pi. So in other words, 180 degrees equals 1 pi radians. So when you're looking to convert from degrees to radians, you want to know what fractional part of that 180 degrees is the number of degrees you're trying to convert. Okay, so for instance, if we look down at the first question here, it's 30 degrees. Okay, so we can think of this in a couple of different ways. And the first way I'm going to look at this is really just by showing you understanding wise how to do it. All right, so and then we'll just go into using the formula if you just are the type of person who likes formulas. So 30 degrees, if you look back up here, let's take a look at what 30 degrees looks like. So 30 degrees would be somewhere over here. Okay, so that would be 30 degrees. And we saw that when we were doing rotations of angles in standard position, 30 degrees is this angle in here. We want to know how many radians that is. Well, if there's 180 degrees in this half circle, we're looking for the fractional part that 30 degrees is. So that would be like saying 30 degrees out of 180 would be, if you go ahead and put that in your calculator, if you can do that in your head, it's 1/6. So it's 1/6 of 1 pi radians. Okay, so it's 1/6 of a radian. Okay, you can do the same thing with the 300. You can say, well, 300 is what fractional part of 180 degrees? Well, it turns out that it's more than 180 degrees, so it's going to be a improper fraction where it's going to be 5/3 of pi. Okay, here 180 degrees, well, 180 degrees is 1 full pi, so that's going to be pi radians, and 135 degrees out of 180 is going to reduce down to 3/4 pi. Now, if you're not very good with fractions, you can just go to your fraction bar on your calculator and then just put in 135 over 180 and see what fraction it comes out to be simplified. So if you're looking for an understanding approach, that's really what you need to know. Now on the reference sheet, we do have that 1 degree is equal to pi over 180. So we can look at this in a different way now. All right, so say we go back to this 30 degrees, okay, and we say, all right, well, we know that 1 degree is equal to pi radians. Well, actually, 1 degree is pi over 180 radians. Okay, and where do we get that from? Well, we know that 180 degrees is equal to pi radians, or 1 pi radians. So if you divide by 180, you get that 1 degree is equal to pi over 180 radians. Okay, so that's where that conversion comes from. It's the same way as if you were to say there's 12 inches in a foot. Okay, it's just a conversion. All right, so here we know that there's pi over 180 degrees in 1 radian. I'm sorry, pi over 180 radians in 1 degree. Okay, so if we take 30 degrees, if 1 degree, all right, is equal to pi, 1 degree is equal to pi over 180 radians, then we know 30 degrees must be equal to 30 times pi over 180 radians. All right, we're multiplying both sides by 30 to get 30 degrees. So when you multiply 30 times pi over 180, if you remember from our fraction unit, that really becomes just one big fraction, right? So that means it's 30 pi over 180, which is pi over 6, which is the same as 1/6 pi. All right, so using the formula is just another way of doing it. All right, so now let's look at the next one. We have 300 degrees. We're going to multiply that by pi over 180. All right, now if you're doing this in your calculator, you don't want to use pi because you want the answer in terms of pi. So you want pi in your answer. So basically that just really puts us back at 300 over 180 pi, and then you're going to reduce that in your calculator to 5/3 pi. You can also write that as 5 pi over 3. They're both the same. You'll see it written both ways. Okay, 180 times pi over 180 is just going to be equal to pi. All right, if you go ahead and put that, the 180s cancel out, you end up with pi. And then 135 times pi over 180 is equal to 135 pi over 180. When you simplify that, you end up again with your 3/4 pi. Okay, and that's really all there is to converting it. So you can do it two different ways. If you find understanding what radians really are, you can just look at it this way, as what part of 180 degrees is it? And that gives you the number of radians. Or if you just like following formulas, you're just multiplying the number of degrees by pi over 180 and simplifying. And that's it.